My topic is on the changing demographics of the global economy. In the 1960s, there were four stylized facts used to describe the demographics of the world economy. Number one, the United States dominated the world economy and world trade picture. Number two, the U.S. dominated in world foreign direct investment, which means companies in the U.S. would invest in business and interests in another country. Number three, the dominance of multinational U.S. firms was a huge deal. And the last fact is that nearly half of the world was off limits to Western international businesses because their countries were associated with communism. Since then, the demographics of the global economy have changed drastically. In 1960, the United States accounted for 38.3% of world output, measured by gross domestic product. As of 2012, that number has dropped to 23.1%. Germany, France, and the United Kingdom experienced the same decrease in global output. However, that doesn't mean that these countries were declining economically. The United States still grew economically in that time, but its relative decline because so many other nations grew. The emergence of economies in countries such as China, India, Russia, and Brazil reflects the growing economic development and industrialization of the world economy. This chart shows the output data from World Bank database. You can see that China grew to be the second most dominant world economy from being nothing in 1960. Also, it has surpassed the United States and now leads in the share of world exports. In the 1960s, the United States accounted for about 20% of world exports, and as you can see, now only accounts for about 8.7%. And going back to the 1960s, U.S. firms accounted for 66.3% of worldwide foreign direct investment flow. The U.S. was so dominant in this aspect of global economy that several European governments talked of limiting inward investment by U.S. firms. Eventually, barriers on the flows of goods, services, and capital fell, so non-U.S. firms began to invest across national borders. In the 1970s, European and Japanese firms moved manufacturing operations to developing nations for cheaper labor costs. For example, Toyota increased its investment in automobile production facilities in the United States and Europe during the 1980s and 90s. A consequence with foreign direct investment is that it fluctuates the stock of foreign direct investment, which is the total cumulative value of foreign investments. From the chart, you can see that U.S. firms dropped from 38% in 1990 to 21% in 2011. In turn, developing nations' FDI stock grew from close to 0% in 1980 to about 18% in 2011. Again, in the 1960s, the global business activities were dominated by the large U.S. corporations. In 1973, 48.5% of the world's 260 largest multinational firms were the United States, so evidently the U.S. accounted for about two-thirds of foreign direct investment. Things eventually changed by 2010. 21 of the world's 100 largest non-financial multinationals were U.S., 15 were French, 11 German, 15 British, and 8 Japanese. Firms from developing nations are expected to continue to emerge as competitors in global markets. Finally, the last demographic fact that has changed since the 1960s is the presence of communism. From 1989 to 1991, many communist governments collapsed and turned towards market-based economic systems. Another country that could see increased international economic involvement is China. On one hand, China is a huge and largely untapped market, with annual FDI being over $100 billion. On the other hand, China would be a huge competitor, taking global market share away from Western and Japanese enterprises. And that is my presentation.